Residents near Muzi Ford and WCVB have been very involved in the discussion of the proposed rezoning and creation of the Highway Commercial 1 District. The proposal, wrapped in a pair of zoning amendment articles, failed its first attempt at town meeting in 2019. With 23 votes shy of the two-thirds majority they needed, the planning board wanted to bring back a revised proposal. Earlier this year, they presented to the community a new proposal with a smaller scale of development, which still received widespread objections at its public hearings. Proponents of the amendment have been pointing to the potential tax revenue boost under the new zoning and preventing the possible use by a warehouse under the current zoning as the main motivations. But many community members do not see a beneficial trade-off given the traffic impact and the density of the development. With the annual town meeting less than 2 weeks away, municipal producer Yu Xiaowen takes a look at the most common questions raised in the community.
A traffic study paid by the town and performed by consulting company GPI shows a six-fold increase in traffic volume from 1,400 trips to over 10,000 trips a day under the proposed zoning. GPI also recommended a traffic mitigation plan, which included land taking from the Muzi side to add dedicated lanes along Gouda Street. The plan estimates the level of service at most of the intersections will equal current use, despite some service levels being graded as E, which is the second longest wait time on a scale of A through F. But some residents are more concerned the traffic impact could be underestimated and it might require land taking from the neighbors to mitigate the increased traffic. Barry Pollock is a town meeting member from Precinct J. He created a Facebook group, Needham Heights Alliance, to discuss the proposal with his constituents. The group right now has over 550 members. In addition, over 800 residents signed a petition he and other members drafted to call for a smaller-scale development. Paula said he was afraid the residents would not be able to make an informed decision based on the information provided at the public hearings. He cited a joint committee meeting from last November. Paula said during that meeting, they stated unequivocally the need to use eminent domain to take land from the neighbors. When asked what measures need to be taken to make the traffic condition more acceptable rather than grade E, GPI engineer Rebecca Brown responded that it will require land taking at the corner of Gouda Street at Central Avenue and on Hunting Road to add dedicated lanes.
The greatest need is on the Hunting Road northbound approach, where right now that approach has a shared left turn and through lane and a dedicated right turn lane. And that really should be 3 lanes on that approach. So it should have a dedicated left lane, dedicated through lane, and a dedicated right turn lane. And that would require some widening and property taking.
Recent retired Select Board member John Bullen said at that meeting he believed the traffic burden on Hunting Road after development was underrated.
There will be more traffic exiting at exit 18 off of 128 to pick up Greendale North, which will then intersect and continue flowing up to Hunting, as you were saying. But I think we may be underestimating the amount of traffic that Hunting Road will need to take northbound going straight across to the new Muzi built-out site. But I do believe that the Hunting right, straight, and left should be dealt with as part of any rebuild of the Muzi site.
Finance Committee member Josh Levy asked what grade D would look like for the eastbound traffic at the intersection of Central Avenue at Gouda Street after development.
The queue headed in the eastbound direction would go about 870 feet beyond the intersection to the west.
To bring it back to no-build condition, Brown said it would require land taking to add a dedicated right turn lane. At its public hearing on February 3rd, Planning Board member Adam Block responded to a question regarding land taking.
Any land taking, I think, is specifically was, it's speculative at this point. The aim would be as a function of making the improvements to the traffic at the corner of Highland and Gould, that the developer would effectively use their own land to widen that strip. That would make the most sense, and they would effectively be doing their own takings. It would not be something that the town would do necessarily, but it's all it all would depend on whatever type of development goes in.
The town's position has become Nobody's proposing a property taking. We're just going to approve this, and we're going to tell the developer, fix the problem. Developer, unless we get to the point that people have hovercrafts and can fly above the houses, you're going to need to put a lane there. That's what the traffic engineer said. So I suppose what they're saying is we're not technically going to use eminent domain if we don't have to. We will have the developer try to negotiate a deal. Maybe some people get a few dollars more than they would if the town were using eminent domain. If the developer's there, but then be transparent about that now.
A week after its public hearing on March 16th, the Planning Board passed several motions to reduce the allowed scale of development. The floor area ratio by right was reduced from 1.0 to 0.7, but remained as 1.35 under special permit. The setbacks on Highland Avenue and Good Street were proposed as 50 feet instead of 20 feet. Buildings within the 200 feet setback are limited to 3 stories or 42 feet by special permit. Green space was proposed to be increased from 20% to 25%.
The 0.7 FAR as of right, nobody really has a problem with, I don't think. 0.7 dropped down from 1.0 made sense. But unless the planning board or select board or finance committee can really look at numbers and say, here's why we need it to be above a 1.0 with a special permit. You're basically giving the planning board almost the right to double what you can do as of right, 1.35. That can be all office. So you're talking about all of that density drawing in traffic at the same time.
One of the major reasons proponents have advocated for rezoning this area is to generate more tax revenue. The most recent fiscal impact study the Planning Board presented to the Finance Committee showed a net revenue of more than $8 million under the maximum 1.35 floor area ratio. But the committee felt the study was, quote, not fully quantified, and they unanimously voted not to recommend the amendment.
The data that we have in front of us to make a financial decision is lacking. And speculative. There could be a lot of tax revenues associated with a prospective building, but I think there are a lot of trade-offs to that aren't fully quantified.
At the 2 public hearings regarding the rezoning of this area, residents frequently expressed how they felt it's a premature proposal. Many said the town should wait for a real developer's plan before making any zoning changes. For the Needham Channel News, I'm Yu Xiaoyuan.